rank on my sleeve, but it goes unseen. I was young, I was raw, now I walk like a king. I'm the story they ain't telling in the vid. I'm the truth from the hole they tried to hid. Honor, courage, commitment is what I gave through every storm that I hit. I stood strong and brave. Now I spit what I live without the fame. This ain't for clout, it's all on me. It's just an A-Train name.
We're all here to make sure that everyone's successful.
You come together and become a team. It definitely creates some lifelong friendships.
So, this is the recruiting office that I was just explaining to you guys. This is where it used to be located at. Okay, so I walk in the recruiting office that I wanted to join was actually the Air Force. Okay, because I knew they had a good reputation. I had family members that was in the armed forces, so I had a little understanding of how everything would go down. So when I first walked in, I asked, could I speak to the Air Force recruiter? Now, when I walked in there, they ran to me like I was Beyonce or somebody before then. Whoever the local celebrity, not local, whoever the celebrity was at that time, they acted like I was it. Okay, they wanted me that bad. Numbers, okay? Which later on down the road, I ended up becoming a recruiter, so I understood what they was doing. So when I walked in, I asked for the Air Force. So everybody turned around and walked away. They pointed and said the Air Force is down the hall. I walked in, and everybody came towards me except for the Air Force recruiter. You know why? And I'll explain to you in a second. So when I get to the Air Force office, he's sitting back with his feet kicked up, chilling. And I'm like, yeah, I want to, join. I'm thinking about joining. I want to get some information. He was like, okay, tell me your story. So I told him what was going on with me and everything. He was like, okay. I told him what happened the night before. He was like, wow, he was like genuinely concerned about that. And he was like, I can understand why it's time for you to make a change. Okay, so I said, yeah, I think this is what I want to do. So he's like, okay, we are actually taking the ASVAB test, which is a vocational test to see if you actually qualify for the service and what type of job you will be qualified for. It's a vocation test. It's a tough test. I've proctored it a couple times, administered it a couple times as well. But it was like, do you have time to take the ASVAB test? Now I'm thinking that the ASVAB test is in the same building I'm in. So I was like, how long does it normally take? He said, it takes a while. Okay. Still have the pizza in the car, guys. I still have the pizza in the car. But I was like, okay, you know what? Sure, why not? I'll take the test. Okay. So they had me fill out. Now, mind you, guys, this is before computers. So I had to fill out a stack of papers before I could even go take the test. I had to fill out all these papers. Okay, so when I fill out the papers, I'm already tired. So when I fill out the papers, it's 20 minutes, 30 minutes just to fill out all these forms so I can actually be eligible to take the test. Okay. Before we actually, he grabs his car keys. That's what happens. And I'm like, where we going? He's like, yeah, the test is administered down in Charlotte. I'm like, Charlotte? They're like, yeah. He said, that's where we administer the test, in Charlotte. And if we leave now, we can make it in time so you can, take the test. I'm like, okay. Mind you, I was 20 at the time, 19, 20. I think I was 20. So we gets in the car. We drive all the way to Charlotte, about 3.5 hours away. Get in there, take the test, okay? I'm smart, okay? I don't want y'all to think I'm not smart, but like I said, I'm not going to fudge anything. So at this time, I passed the test, but I didn't qualify for the Air Force, okay? The minimum to get in the military, ladies and gentlemen, is a 32 on the test. Okay, but it's not graded the way traditionally A, B, C, D, E, F, A, B, C, D, F. It's graded on a point system. And the lowest that you can score is a 32 and be qualified to join the armed forces. I think I scored like I want to say, like I said, 35 years ago, guys. I think I scored a 50, 54, 54, 52. So I scored decent. I scored pretty good. But what the Air Force was looking for, I didn't score high enough. I think they wanted something like a 60s and above. So I was like, okay, is there any other branch that I qualify for? They're like, yeah, you qualify for everybody. He said, I said, well, which one is the next highest after you guys? And he said, the Navy. I was like, never thought about the Navy. So I said, well, can I talk to a Navy recruiter? You're like, yeah. Actually, before that, I asked him, I said, well, when can I take I asked him, I said, well, is that the only score? He said, well, you can take the test again and see if you can score higher, but you got to wait 6 months before you can take the test again. I was like, oh, hell no. I'm not about to wait 6 months. I got to get out of here. I got to go. There's no questions about it. I have to get up out of here because of what happened the night before. So that's when I inquired about the Navy guy. So he went over there, talked to the Navy recruiter, told him what my score was. He was all happy to talk to me, okay? So he comes over, takes me over to his office. I sit down. He started handing me all these pamphlets, and he asked me, well, what is it? What's the reason why you want to join the Navy? And I explained to him the same scenario, same situation I just explained to you guys, what we had just seen. And he was like, okay, I can hook you up. You done took the test and everything, and you scored good. So we're going to start, looking into some jobs. He said, so he asked me, he said, if I gave you a urinalysis today, can you pass the urinalysis? I kept it real with him. I said, no. Now, I didn't mention the other things that I used to dabble in because I don't want to get kicked off of the platform. But I was dealing in, the sticky icky. If everybody remember that, I'm dating myself again, the sticky icky. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about, the tweeds. Okay, so I used to dabble in that every now and then. So I knew I wasn't gonna be able to pass no drug test. So they said, okay, well, how long you think it'll take for you to pass the drug test? He said, normally it takes about 30 days. I said, yeah, I could definitely pass in 30 days, not a problem. Okay, so he gave me all these pamphlets and everything and told me, he said, okay, so this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna, I want you to read up on this. I want you to come back here on Fridays because they had these mandatory meetings. I want you to come back on Fridays. And we're going to, just act like you are a part of the Navy so you can get that information and let your family know this is what you're going to do. And in 30 days, we'll take you down to the MEP station where you can take the test. Not the test, I'll take that back. Where you can do the physical and go from there. Okay, so within that 30 days, before we talk about that, so I get all of these pamphlets, all this information. Oh, I forgot to mention, I took the test and did all of that in a Pizza Hut uniform. Okay, I never changed clothes. I kept my Pizza Hut shirt on and jeans and stuff like that. So I was in the Pizza Hut uniform doing all of this stuff. So after I get all the information, here it is about 4.5, 5 hours later. Yeah, oh my God, it's like about 5 or 6 o'clock in the afternoon. And I get in the car and I remembered that I realized that daggone pizza is still in the car. So this is before cell phones, ladies and gentlemen. I drive back to the store and they are livid. Okay, they are hot. They're like, where the hell you been? What the they going slam off. So they call the lady up and tell her that they apologize about the pizza delivery and do want another pizza. She's like, sure. So they make another pie and tell me to go deliver that pie and come right back here. So I already knew what was going to happen. So I go take that pie to the lady, nice sweet lady too, African-American lady, black lady. And she's like, baby, what happened? I explained to her, I said, look, I had such a traumatic situation that happened last night that I knew that I had to make a change in my life. And she's a sweet lady. I don't know her name to this day, but she was like, baby, I understand. And she ended up giving me $20 and gave me an old grandma hug, you know what I mean? And she was like, I am so proud that you decided to make a decision. I mean, I'm still hungry. You know, we laughed. She was like, but for you to have made that adult decision, you know, I understand. And some of us, you know, need to make those decisions in life, you know, where you could identify things and be able to make that change. And I was able to at a young age. I think I was 20 years old. I knew I had to make that change. And so I did. So I delivered the pizza, got a $20 tip. I get back to Pizza Hut, where they immediately told me to give them back their shirt and don't ever come back again. So I lost that job, but was on the verge of a career. Okay, so now I have all of these pamphlets. I have all of these brochures. I've taken the test. I got a nice score. So I go pick my mom up and take her home. And I'm telling her what I just did. And she's so happy. She's like, but she's concerned. I'm her only child. I'm her baby. She's like, well, you sure that's what you want to do? I said, well, I can't leave for 30 days because, you know, I got to take a drug test and stuff like that and take a physical. So she was like, well, you know, she started laughing because moms know, you know, she knew why. So the thing was that I went ahead and, so in the process of waiting these 30 days, I'm excited. So I'm telling my grandmother, she didn't believe me. I was like, Granny, I joined the Navy. I'm joining the Navy. She was like, you ain't joining no Navy. Boy, stop lying. You ain't joining no Navy. I'm like, for real, I'm joining the Navy. I told my brother, we sat down on the curb and I talked to my brother because they were talking about this thing called the buddy system at the time. So I said, well, that'll be perfect for my brother. Maybe he want to do it too so he can get up out of here and we could, you know, do the Navy thing together. My brother was dead set against it. He was like, hell no. He said, I'm not about to join no Navy. I'm Army. You know, I gotta be in the dirt, you know what I'm saying? Shouts out to Hollywood. Love him to death. But so that was he said he ain't joining nobody, nothing. So I said, okay, respect, you know. So as I'm telling everybody these things, you know, they're not believing me, but I knew in the back of my mind, this is something that I had to do. Fast forward 30 days, I end up here. Okay? You know, they get mad at you, so I just wanted to show you, this is the MEP station. I spent many days and nights here as a recruiter, which eventually we'll get to those stories later on. So like I was saying, I get here where you have to do the physical and eye exam, hearing test, and things of that make sure that you're physically fit. They want to make sure you don't have any broken bones, that you're able to, you know, take care of, you know, make sure that you're in overall health, because they don't want to, you know, take on some people that ain't, you know, 100% good to go. So I took the drug test. Obviously, I passed the drug test. And coincidentally, that was the last time during that time frame that I done drugs. So like I was saying, I've been drug free ever since. And so I get back to the processing after, I mean, there's really nothing to talk about in the MEPS. I just wanted to show it to you guys. That's where my career started. That's where the change was made. And so while I'm inside processing, they say, this is what you scored. Do you know what job that you're interested in doing? Now, all this time, I was just so excited about joining the Navy that I had no idea of what I wanted to do. So I remembered something that my uncle told me. Well, my uncle was the engineer. His name was Mike, okay? And my Uncle Mike was an electrician. So I went to college to be an electrician. He was my superhero. He was my idol. I mean, besides my parents, of course, he was next. And I love him dearly. We all do, but I mean, Uncle Mike, you know, third world. So he, he since passed, you know, but at this particular time, in the back of my mind, I was saying, okay, I'll become an electrician and we can, I'm already thinking years ahead. We could probably work together and, start a business together and stuff like that. So that was the premise. So when they said that, when they asked me what job did I want, I said, well, I want to be an electrician. So they was like, well, there's no positions available right now for the electrician. Is there any other job that you're interested in doing? So I was like, man. So I'm like, so that threw a monkey wrench in everything, because I had no idea of whatever else that I could do or what I was good at, So I was like, well, I mean, I guess because I heard that, that engineers make good money. So I was like, well, maybe something in engineering. They was like, well, what in engineering? So they're still asking me those good questions, but I had no clue, because I didn't have a mentor to guide me through the military process. So I just said engineering. They said, I tell you what, we'll give you a guaranteed school, but we're gonna put you in this program. It's called JOBS, and it stood for, it was basic job I can't remember. It's a while, but I'll show it to you later on. I can't remember it right now on top of my head. But it was the JOBS program. And within the JOBS program, you spend 2 weeks in each engineering field. And then you test out at the end of that particular 2 weeks. And whichever field that you feel comfortable in, or that you score higher in, that'll be the job that you select. So it was firefighting, electrical, remember I told you? Mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, firefighting, which is repair, hull technician, and I forgot what the last one was. I think it was boiler tech or something of that nature at that particular time. So I had what's called a guaranteed A school, but I had to go through this JOBS program, okay? And I signed a 4-year contract at that particular time. Grabbed all of my stuff, came home excited. I'm in the Navy. I don't know what my job is, but I know I'm in the Navy. But the funny thing about it was, I couldn't leave for 6 months. So I was in what's called the delayed entry program for 6 months. I told you I wanted to get out of this as soon as possible because of the situation that occurred beforehand. So I had waited after the police kicked in the door, had the gun pointed at my head and everything. I had to wait 30 days before I could actually join. I don't have a job because I'm thinking that I'm leaving within 30 days, so there's no need to try to get a job. So I left that rooming house, moved in with my uncle because I thought I was going to only be here for 30 days. And then, bam, I'm in the Navy, off, to do my thing. Well, it ended up being 6 months before I could leave. January 21st, 1993 is when I left for boot camp. Okay? So during that time frame, I was in the delayed entry program, and I was, learning what the Navy was all about, learning, how to salute, how, to address people, because the Navy has a whole different lingo than civilians do. Instead of saying the left is port, right, starboard, forward and aft is front and back, stuff like that. So I'm learning all of the different lingos and what an anchor is and how to tie a knot, bosun knot, and I'm learning all of this stuff while in the delayed entry program, which is fine. I'm living at my uncle's place now and just excited. I was working, me and my brother had got a job at this meat packing produce place. I'm not gonna mention their names because they was full of it, and leave it at that. But we were working there, and at the same time, I'm preparing myself to actually join the Navy. Now, the closer that it became time for me to leave, you get nervous, because it's like, wow, I'm actually joining. The date is getting closer and closer and closer. And the closer it got, the quieter people got. You know, like, am I really going to do it? Am I really going to do it? You know, and a lot of people was happy for me. The people that had served, they knew what I was going to go through, so they weren't concerned at all. But I'm talking about like my mom, my aunts, my female cousins. They're all, you know, concerned, nervous about what I'm about to do. My brother, believe it or not, he was like, it's getting closer to me to leave. He's already missing me. And I ain't even left yet, you know. But, you know, I just knew that this was something that I had to do. So the night before we leave, you have to go stay in the hotel. Well, I don't know if they do it now, but back then you would spend the night in the hotel because obviously they don't want people to leave before the night of, you know, so they basically make sure you come to the hotel and you spend the night there, and then you start your processing to actually head to Great Lakes. Females went, and then they had a boot camp in Florida and a boot camp in Chicago, Great Lakes. I went to the one in Great Lakes. So the night before it was time for me to actually leave for boot camp, they allowed you to spend that time with your family. It was just like you're going to go to prison or something. And by the way, I'm gonna talk about that too, because the military and the jail system is very similar. So that particular night, now this is 6 months later, obviously, I stayed clean, drug free. You know, they give you another urinalysis, of course, and you go to the hotel. During that time, they allow you to hang out with your family up until like, I think like 7 or 8 o'clock. You have to be in the hotel by 8 o'clock that night, you know, and you're in the hotel with, it's not just the Navy, it's all the branches of services are in this one hotel together. Okay. So by it being in Raleigh, where I'm from, I'm at home. So they told me that I could come as long as I make curfew, I'm fine. So I spent the rest of that day, you know, visiting family. You know, I had my mom's car still, and I drove around, and I'm hanging out and seeing everybody. Okay, so that day that I left, I remember that when I was riding, because I dropped the car off, and and my recruiter, I think, if I'm not mistaken, gave me a ride back to the hotel. And I remember, like, yes, I'm trying not to tear up, guys, because it was an emotional moment. My mother was like, my mother saw me off, okay? So I gave her a hug. I told her that, you know, I'll be home soon. I'm going to leave for boot camp and everything. And she stayed strong for the most part, you know. But I did that one thing that I know I shouldn't have done. When I got in the front seat of the recruiter's car, I looked out the rearview mirror. Not the rearview, the side mirror. I looked out the side mirror and I saw my mom. She was bawling. And she put her head down. She was strong the entire time that I was saying my goodbyes. But when I turned to go in, to get in the car, she was bawling. And when she started bawling, I started bawling. That's my mother, you know? And right then, I had that split moment of a second thought, like, let me get the hell out of this car and be with my mom. But then I knew that my mom wanted me to make a change and do something good and something positive with my life. And I thank her for having the courage. I'm getting emotional a little bit. I thank her for having the courage to allow her baby to go off and become something. And with that positive reinforcement, it allowed me to be the person that I am today. So, like I said, excuse me, I'm a very emotional person. But that was how my ultimate decision to join the Navy. And the encouragement and the support that I had from my family allowed me to be, like I said, I know I'm repeating myself, but it allowed me to be the person who I am today. Now, throughout these stories, I had good times, I had bad times. I had situations occur where I almost got kicked out of the Navy. And there were situations where I was trying to get kicked out of the Navy. And then there was times where I was at the end of my tour, I wanted to leave the Navy. But through perseverance and the love and the support of my family to encourage me to stay in, I signed up again and again and again, and before long, I had done 20 years in the Navy. Okay? So that's the journey that we're about to go on together. Like I said before, it's going to be emotional. You just saw me almost tear up right there. It's going to be emotional. It's going to be laughter. It's going to be fun. And we're going to go live, and we're going to talk about it after I tell the story of that particular instance. So right now, I'm going to wrap it up because you know what happened, how it occurred, what was the ultimate decision, why I decided to join. And now I'm actually getting ready to, I'm at the hotel, and it's the night before me leaving to head off to boot camp. So with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed. I know I was all over the place. It's going to get better. But remember, I'm reminiscing 35 plus years ago on how it actually began. So the further that I go towards the story, the quality is going to also pick up because it's going to be fresher in my mind. Okay? But that is how it actually ultimately began. And it all started on Dacian Road in Raleigh, North Carolina. I want you guys to enjoy the video. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. Share these videos because, like I said, it's going to get better. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be fun. I'm going to share everything. And also leave a comment. You leave a comment in there, ask questions. I'm going to answer those questions. I'm going to go live after the videos. I'm going to go live, and we're going to be able to talk about, what you guys just watched and go even deeper, where I can just open up and share other intimate details because I left out a lot of stuff on purpose, so you guys can ask those questions and then I can answer those questions and then share that other stuff also during the live session. But like, share, subscribe, leave a comment. And remember, I want to also let you guys know, this is for the young people. If you know you're living life and it's not going the way that you thought it was going or should go, and you know that you need to do something different, sometimes you may have to get outside that comfort zone, get out of that rut that you're in, before something happens. God forbid that, you end up going to jail or you end up, something happens to you and you become unalive. I encourage you guys to take a moment to reflect on what I'm talking about because this was my story. This was my path. This was what started me down the path that I am today. This is what the conscientious decision to make a change, because I knew that it could have been a split second. It could have been a rookie cop that was scared of black people or whatever and just busted in and just went to shooting, and you wouldn't have heard none of this. None of the other stuff before would have happened. My story would have ended on Dacian Road. You see what I'm saying? So if you know that you're living wrong, and we know we're not kids. We all know. If you know you're not living wrong, if you're not living right, and you want to make that change, don't be afraid. Ladies, same goes for you. Don't be afraid. Go ahead and make that change. Trust me, it gets better within time. Okay? Parents, let your kids watch these videos. If your loved ones, this may help someone make a decision that going down the wrong path. Like, share, and subscribe to this video. And like I say, this is raw and uncut, unfiltered. I'm going to give it to you like this. It's going to get better, but I'm going to give it to you. Okay? But I want you guys to understand, it's rough, it's tough, it's hard, but it gets better. But you got to want to make that change. The same thing I tell my kids all the time. It's the only person that when you say, when people ask you how you doing and you say fine, and it's not fine, you're not lying to nobody but yourself. When you look in that mirror, that reflection looking back at you will definitely let you know that you need to make that change, because that's what happened. When I looked in the rearview mirror driving my mother's car, supposed to be delivering that pizza, it told me that I needed to make a change because this can't continue to happen. But like I say, like, share, subscribe, and we will move on from there. Okay? Right here, it's from the heart, and it's my journey. but I wanted to share it with you. Okay, so be smart, make the right decisions, and take care.
Rank on my sleeve, but it goes unseen. I was young, I was raw, now I walk like a king. I'm the story they ain't telling in the vid. I'm the truth from the hole they tried to hid. Honor, courage, commitment is what I gave through every storm that I hit. I stood strong and brave. Now I spit what I live without the fame. This ain't for clout, it's all on me. It's just an A-Train name.
We're all here to make sure that everyone's successful.
You come together and become a team. It definitely creates some lifelong friendships.